afternoon. I'm David Talbot, Managing Director and Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities. Our next presenters are Bill Sheriff, Executive Chairman, and Paul Goranson, CEO and Director of enCore Energy. Now, enCore is advancing several projects in South Texas that should help feed its two permitted past-producing ISR uranium plants, and it has projects elsewhere in the U.S. as well. Gentlemen, you have 15 minutes, and then we'll have a 5-minute Q&A session at the end. So everybody, please put your questions into the text box, and we'll get them to as many as we can. So take it away, guys.
Thank you, David. Bill Sheriff here, Chairman. I will give you a little bit of background on the company and hand it over to Paul for more of the technical overview. We've been around since 2011, spent a decade right after formation waiting on the uranium renaissance. Saw it coming, put out a worldwide search for our CEO. We're lucky enough to recruit Paul Goranson, who you'll be hearing from. And he's in a very established background in the business, joined an already elite team at enCore. And he's built the last 4 plants in the business. So without challenge, one of the best in the business. Next, please. 2 years ago, we, with the Renaissance coming on, in addition to Paul joining us, we made our first critical M&A move, picking up the assets of Uranium Resources in Texas. The main point of this being 2 licensed processing plants in Texas, 2 of only 11 in the U.S., really gives us a huge head start, and essentially turnkey production capability in Texas, where we're scheduling production for 2023. The renovations of the Rosita plant will be finished here in this next quarter, the second quarter. We're coming in on time and on budget. That was about $1 million project, started about 9 months ago. We're quickly adding to our uranium portfolio through additional leases of mineralized ground that are indicated by our extensive database. And we recently completed our second M&A with Azarga, bringing in the second and third project areas into the production pipeline. That is the advanced Dewey Burdock project in South Dakota, which has its federal permits, and the Gas Hills project in Wyoming. We have a much better bandwidth and we'll be able to pursue the permitting on these 2 much more aggressively than in the past. And we look for those to enter into the production pipeline sometime around 2025. Be a bit of a horse race between the 2 of them. And ultimately, we have a very large resource base in New Mexico that'll fuel the company well into the future. All of these are additive. It's not a linear process. We look to be having 3 or 4 production centers online by during that time frame in the next 5 to 6 years. 90 million pounds in the measured and indicated category, 9 million inferred, plus about 70 million or so in the historic that we're systematically putting over to 43101 at the rate of about 3 projects a year, moving them up. Here again, the main asset we've got, the strongest asset we've got, are the people. We've missed several of those cycles in the business, and keeping a team and recruiting a team both at the board level, management level, and all the way down to the actual field hands that are at the plants are second to none. Next. The ISR process, basically we inject oxygenated groundwater into a uranium-bearing sandstone and pump it out, remove the uranium, and recycle and refortify with oxygen the solution. Very environmentally friendly, low capex, low operating system, very quick to implement. Next. Market cap about 490 million Canadian, 11 million in the bank. Just completing just announced a bought deal financing last night and this morning that will see us through to production. It takes care of advancing the Dewey Burdock and Gas Hills projects as well. So we're all set to get to production. Also have a significant inventory of uranium. Next. I'm not going to mention the team. It's an elite team. I encourage you to review it or contact us for further details, but in the interest of time, we'll just move on. Here's a quick map showing our concentration of assets in Texas, Wyoming, and ultimately New Mexico. Texas and Wyoming are agreement states. That means you basically don't deal with the federal government on your nuclear permitting, which obviously streamlines the process. Very key advantage of Texas and Wyoming. Next. Not going to go into the Renaissance. You're all aware of the backdrop of news even before the recent geopolitical issues. But definitely great timing to be in uranium. I think we've got a good decade or more ahead of us. Best timing since before 3 Mile Island 50 some years ago. Next. And all this is against a backdrop of many, many reactors, over 200 of them planned for construction or in construction. Here again, China leading the way on that, but significant contributions from the Mideast and India. Japan's also been a big swing as they restarted many of their reactors and plan to restart many more. U.S. remains the largest nuclear consumer, getting about 20% of the world's supply, and we're also using about 20% of our material coming in from Russia, which is problematic at this point. Next. It also benefits our company dramatically as other domestic producers. So where we are is we're modernizing the Rosita plant. We're on schedule, on budget, expanding our Texas ISR assets to last well into the future. Wellfield drilling for the first wellfield in Rosita underway. Upgrading 43101 assets, non-core asset divestment underway, and obviously always looking for future ISR additions to our already attractive pipeline of projects. Next. And we'll just skip the timeline. I've covered that with 2023 initial production. And I'll turn it over to Paul for the details.
Thanks, Bill. As you can see, our focus in the first part is Texas, where we plan to be in production in 2023. And at times with we currently have 2 offtake agreements, and the first one takes delivery in 2023, which times perfectly with our plans. We're focusing on Rosita, which is a central processing plant we acquired at the end of 2020. We're currently upgrading it, should be finished with that in about less than a month, 2 months, hopefully. And it'll be ready to go. We're advancing a well field near Rosita as well to initiate production on what's already been currently licensed and permitted. We're also advancing a couple other projects we call under what we call our Upper Spring Creek project, which has been previously licensed and partially permitted, that is on a fast track towards getting into production to feed Rosita. We'll be using the satellite plant or remote ion exchange, where we'll be truck transporting ion exchange resin to and from these wellfield production areas to the central processing plant, focusing on, like I said, at Rosita. And as capacity fills up, we'll be shifting that to Kingsville. With the growth potential in Texas, we're continuing to add and evaluate further additional known mineral resources that have the ability to fill up that production pipeline, extend the production pipeline in South Texas to get the best value out of these 2 central processing plants. Right now, the combined capacity is about 1.6 million pounds. The beauty of these facilities is that we have the ability to scale up significantly for a reasonable cost, because the infrastructure and the facilities already exist. It's a matter of installing the equipment. We'll do that as capacity needs are measured. And we already have the satellite plants, the equipment for our satellite plants that exist already. All we have to do is relocate them, and that's a relatively low cost and easy, rather straightforward operation to have occur. As we've been modernizing Rosita, you can see some of the work we've been doing here, focusing on getting the back end of the plant up and ready to be able to accept loaded resins from these new well fields. Dewey Burdock is located in South Dakota, and it's an advanced project. It comes through the Azarga transaction, which we closed at the end of 2021. It has good resources, and it's open on both ends, but it's got its federal permits and licenses. There's some work that remains on that end. We expect to take the next 18 to 24 months. But as you can see, it has good, strong economics. Even as we see the price of uranium continuing to increase today, it remains a good economic option once we're ready to start producing, developing it and producing, we hope in the 2024 period of time. Gas Hills will come along. We've already started beginning the permitting work for Gas Hills. This is a brownfield project. It's an ISR project that's located adjacent to Cameco's Gas Hills ISR uranium project, which is fully licensed and permitted. It's located in a brownfield area, lots of infrastructure, but also due to the fact that it's so right next to the Cameco ISR project, it gives us a high level of confidence that we'll be able to get this one permitted and put into production at a reasonable time. And as Bill mentioned, it'll be a horse race between Gas Hills and Dewey Burdock. These are the PEA results. As you can see, it has good, strong, robust results, economics. Again, we expect this to be coming in as soon as possible to, hopefully by 2024 or early 2025, with good economics to be able to support our production pipeline. Ultimately, to get to a 3.5 to 5 million pound production capacity over the next 5 or 6 years. And New Mexico is where we have the biggest upside out there. It's the biggest basket that we have of resources. Currently, we have just over 44 million pounds of indicated resources, over 6 million pounds of inferred resources, plus nearly almost 70 million pounds of historical mineral resources. Some of those resources, we're currently working to convert those into 43-101 or as part of our project to upgrade our mineral resources. But New Mexico has the best upside to it. According to the State Geologic Service, there's over 400 million pounds of unmined mineralization. As you can see from our property position, we cover a significant portion of that area in our property position. And with the checkerboard area, there's quite a bit of area where we know there's mineralization, but it's never been classified. So we believe there's significant opportunity for upside to the mineral resources out there. And as you can see, we have a rather wide distribution of properties out there, most of which we're focusing on ISR as being our principal production. And we expect the first ISR project to come on board as Crownpoint Hosta Butte. As you can see, it has significant mineral resources, and we've just released the updated 43-101 for it last night, so please go look at that. It is partially permitted and it's licensed with the NRC. We expect it to be one of the first ones to move when the time comes in New Mexico. So as a result, over the last year, we've been building enCore to become the premier ISR uranium developer in the United States. That's through two transactions, the Westwater transaction and the Zarga transaction. It got us to be able to become a near-term producer. The Texas projects give us immediate access to production with the 2 production facilities we have. So we're leveraging that with the expectation that we'll be able to generate further revenue to support capital projects in South Dakota and Wyoming through cash flow. We were leveraging a strong team of management that we have that came on board, but also we've acquired over the last year, we've been able to build up our bench strength on our technical team with geologists and engineers that allows to leverage that experience and get us into to be that producer coming up. All this gets us to a larger production profile, which includes our New Mexico assets over a long period of time, over the next 5 years or so. And we're continuing to look at opportunities for further consolidation. We believe that there's more consolidation opportunities. The opportunities are a little bit more limited because we've been fairly successful on our end, and looking forward to future opportunities. And with that, Dave, it's back to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Bill and Paul. Great presentation, nice and quick. We have about 6 minutes here left for Q&A. Already have several in, so why don't we get started here? You recently upgraded your $15 million bought deal equity raise to $25 million today. What are your use of proceeds for that cash?
Well, primarily they're going to be to get the Rosita plant finished off and up to snuff, install well fields, look at possible expansion there. But also, as you'd mentioned when we first came in, we have been pretty active acquiring other projects with known mineralization, several of which have previous 43-101s on them, and we'll be looking to move those forward very quickly. Paul also mentioned that those previously permitted ones will be coming up in the pipeline very quickly as satellite operations. So that's the main thrust, but there'll also be enough money to move forward on the push for permitting of Dewey Burdock as well as Gas Hills.
Okay, yeah, I think you covered off on a lot of my future questions, but we'll get through. What do you foresee? When do you foresee your U.S. listing on the NASDAQ?
Well, it's obviously been delayed a bit by this prospectus offering, but it also will ensure the viability of the minimum thresholds once we get to NASDAQ. We have been approved. We meet all the criteria for listing there, other than the minimum share price, which is we've said in the past. So it's certainly something you can look forward to in the next couple of months, I think.
Okay. And the Rosita Central Processing Plant refurbishment, that's due to be completed next quarter. What's really left to do there, and do you plan to expand capacity of the plant?
So we're very close to being complete. It's a matter of, we've got a few pieces of equipment and we've got to do some wiring, and then it's, get the automation program. So that's the bulk of the work that's left to do. The majority of the heavy work and the major equipment relocations and acquisition has been done. It's a matter of just getting things, the last few, a couple of pumps put in, and then really getting the automation set up. The ability that we have, we're not adding additional capacity today, but we have the capability to do that. We have, there's always options to move equipment from Kingsville to Rosita to double capacity or add capacity by acquiring larger equipment. Right now, our capacity is limited strictly by the size of the dryer, and it's a relatively small one, but they're very efficient and well built and solid. But we'll have to add that capacity to increase it significantly. The beauty of that is that it's just a matter of getting equipment, because all the infrastructure, the pad space, the concrete work and steel work is all there.
Yeah, and that's the dryer in the center of your screen there as well.
Yeah.
So,
It's also there's no production restrictions by the license, so we're able to upgrade without an amendment, which is very unusual in this business.
yeah. Okay. Can you give us an update on Dewey Burdock acquisition? The NRC gave okay for transferring of the license. When might we see state permitting resume?
We expect state permitting to resume relatively, soon, I would think. We're currently going through, there's a DC Circuit Court hearing that happened a few months ago on the Dewey Burdock license. Everything that's basically pending right now is waiting on the outcome of that hearing. We feel very strongly it's going to be positive. There's going to be a positive outcome based on the oral arguments and the precedents that's out there already. And we're hoping to hear a decision soon. And basically what EPA and the state of South Dakota have told us, once that's done, and let's get restarted on getting everything else buttoned up and signed.
Okay. And are there plans to expand life of mine at Gas Hills? And really, how does that play into the mix, I guess, specifically with Dewey?
So Gas Hills doesn't have any permitting done on it at all. So what we'll do is we're going to be looking at it from a perspective of two things. One is we know it's generally amenable to in-situ recovery, the alkaline process, which we're pretty good at. There'll always be technical things we want to verify before we go much further. So we'll be doing some of that testing in the first quarter. That's what some of the proceeds are going to be doing to support that work. And then we'll be applying for a license, as well as plan of operations with the BLM. I met with BLM last week. It sounded like it's based on their response to us, it's going to be relatively straightforward. Obviously, it's a federal process, so it's going to take longer than the state process. But as far as what they say is that because the state process is so straightforward, that they don't see it hindering their work at all. And it looks pretty promising right now, based on everything I've read and looked at with respect to the project as a whole.
Okay, we've got less than 30 seconds left. Paul, you were past president of the UPA, deal a lot with governments. Some utilities are asking for no sanctions on Russian uranium. Is this an issue? Is this an opportunity for enCore?
Well, it's both. So it's an issue because I don't think anybody expected things to turn out like they have, and so as a result, everybody's reacting to that. And so with the, we've seen the articles about what the utilities are doing. I think that they're in a tough spot because they've already committed for deliveries and they've got to come up with some solution. I don't think any nuclear power plant is going to run out of fuel. There's fuel out there they can get. It's a matter of finding alternative plans. It is a positive news for enCore because we're focused in the U.S. And one of the things that this event has done is catalyzed the political will in the United States at higher levels in this administration to supporting domestic industries and weaning ourselves off of imports from state-owned companies and countries that don't necessarily see our strategic needs. It's been a message I've been spreading when I was UPA president. That's been always a concern. And unfortunately, what we were saying was a potential outcome of geopolitics has shown reality. But there's a way things can be. The U.S. government can fix this and make it a permanent fix. So I see this as catalyzing that. Meanwhile, we'll be being a domestic producer. I see that we'll be able to respond accordingly.